So the new season of My Feet Are Killing Me premieres May 4th on TLC. But before we talk about the show, I have a couple questions for you. How did you get interested in treating feet and ankles, and what made you want to be a foot surgeon?
That's always the number one question. But seriously, I always wanted to be in medicine. That's the number one thing. I've always had a heart for helping people, and I was in sports, so I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor, mostly like an orthopedic, because I personally loved mine. I had a physical therapist with all the injuries I've had growing up in sports, and definitely wanted to do sports medicine. And went to college, majored in biology. I went to a post-bac program, and then I had the time to shadow a whole bunch of doctors. And to be honest with you, I really didn't feel it. I didn't feel it until I shadowed a podiatrist. And podiatry was surgical, it was sports medicine, and it was also a career in which you can be entrepreneurial and also have a family. So, it definitely spoke to my personality being multifaceted and just interested in other things besides science as well. So podiatry seemed to fit me.
Nice. And what has been the most challenging case or surgery that you have performed to date or treated?
Oh man, I feel like every time I answer this question, something else shows up that's like even harder. But no, every patient is unique with their challenges. But I would say probably the biggest challenge to date is someone's not even on the show, but the most challenging patient to date on the show would probably have to be my guy with the tree man syndrome. I mean, that wasn't challenging in like its complexity, but it was more the fact that this person is going to continuously need treatment.
Yeah.
That always serves as a challenge because you're going to be treating this person in probably a very different way than you did before for the same condition. So those always provide a challenge.
And what is the most common foot issue you see?
So on a daily basis, people come in for all kinds of things, but I would say the majority of times I'm seeing people who have plantar fasciitis, like, swelling of those soft tissues, tendonitis. Surgical patients always come in for things like bunions, hammer toes, things of that nature. And I do see my fair share of trauma, like fifth metatarsal fractures are like the thing nowadays. I think I've treated like, I don't know, 5 fifth metatarsal fractures this week. So
Okay, I mean, I just got off a really bad ankle sprain. And so for anyone who just wants to take care of their feet, like what is like one or two things that anyone at home can do to just like overall like take care of their feet and hopefully not have any major issues or that require surgery or anything like that?
right. Well, the number one thing is buying really good, sturdy shoes. I know a lot of times people are at home and they're not wearing shoes. They go barefoot. And unfortunately, that's just not enough support for your body weight on your feet. So definitely find a good pair of house shoes or slippers or tennis shoes, even that you wear inside the house. That's number one. Number two is kind of limit the time in which you're in those non-supportive shoes. Like if you have to wear high heels or dress shoes to work every day, bring a pair of flats, bring a pair of tennis shoes that you can kind of easily transition into. Overall, you definitely need to be stretching though. That's a great form of preventative care for your ankle sprains and other issues like tendonitis. Definitely do a stretch twice a day to prevent any type of stress on your soft tissues.
You mentioned high heels. I'm 5'1", very short. I wear shoes with a heel, whether it's like a thin inch heel or like a thick boot. Like, what is your, like, how long do you think someone should, like a girl or a boy, whoever, should be in high heels? Do you think it should only be like 2 or 3 hours a day, or does it depend on the person?
Well, it depends on the person and it depends on the heel. I would say that, like some high heels are, incredibly 6 inches, really skinny, those you should give it like an hour tops.
Oh,
I know. The other times when you're in a more like professional or business high heel shoe, something like that, I would say anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, you can get away with those. Sometimes if you're at weddings or cocktail parties, that's all you're giving it anyways.
mhm.
But more responsible high heel shoes like wedges and sandals like that, you can get away with like a kind of an all day thing, especially if you're sitting down.
How about flip flops? Because I mean, those like some flip flops have nice cushion, but overall, like regular flip flops, should people kind of just wear them only if they're at the beach or like they really need to?
So you're not getting the support and you're definitely not getting the shock absorption that you would get from a regular shoe when you're in flip-flops all the time. So there are shoe companies out there that are making amazing flip-flops with arch supports, but you still need like a backing of the heel if you're going to have the utmost support. So, it's summer coming up. My advice is to get you a nice pair of flip-flops that actually have those built-in sandals or those built-in arch supports. But still, you want to limit your time in them. Wear a good tennis shoe if you're going to do your activities.
I'm wearing my Birkenstocks right now, and I'm like,
you're like,
okay, so now let's talk about the show. So in your show, My Feet Are Killing Me, you guys see incredible cases. Like, I'm like, what? You're seeing incredible cases. Do you ever see a case that Dr. Brad or Dr. Sarah had and think, oh my God, I wish I had that case, or like, I would love to see that patient, or have kind of just crazy ideas about it?
I mean, I've never had that feeling, because I feel like, eventually something similar is going to walk through the door. I mean, any podiatrist every day across the country is going to see something on the lines of what we see in our show. So I don't know if I would necessarily have foot envy, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's just a matter of time.
Okay, and in this season, you have a patient called Mioiko.
Yes.
She was walking on a broken foot for years, which like I can't even imagine how painful that must be, and how like I don't know how she was walking. Like, how was she walking on a broken foot for so many years?
I think some people, they go into their minds of being very task oriented, and she had given the foot as much time as she was going to give it, and now it was time to just focus on something else. And so I think she was used to living with a low level of pain like her whole life, and then there was this portion of her body that just basically fused its way into being the stability that she needed at the time. Was it sustainable? Absolutely not. Eventually that was going to buckle, but I mean, the body tries to help you out in certain ways if you're not going to address your initial problem. And I think that that's how she was able to get by. But fortunately, we met, and hopefully you guys watch the show to see what happens to her story.
Okay, and do you ever see a lot of patients kind of like her come in where they're like, I gave, like, for instance, I had a sprained ankle for a while. It's like, you give your ankle or your foot or anything like 3 months, and if it hasn't healed, you're kind of like, okay, I gave it the time it needs. Like, we're just going to carry on with life. Do you see a lot of patients kind of with that similar mindset?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think people, they have their home remedies. They talk to their friends who may have had similar conditions. They Google it, they don't think it's that bad. And I think, around 3 months is probably over the time in which you need to come to the doctor. I would say give it 3 weeks. If your situation's not getting better in 3 weeks, then it's time to come in. But yeah, I see a lot of patients who kind of just were in that hopeful state. Like, I was just hoping my body was going to figure it out. And it didn't,
Okay, well, like, let's talk about some other patients you've had. I heard you had a patient who admitted he didn't wash his feet for a long time, and another who didn't take off his surgical boot for years. Like, what was your reaction when you met these patients?
Well, one of them was with his significant other, who was so sweet.
Oh.
And I think that he was very reliant on his partner for certain things that he just probably didn't want to deal with or didn't care enough to deal with. But I think, when you're living with someone else who's like, wow, that this is an issue that you need to address, then coming to the doctor is probably a good idea. The other person who didn't take off their boot for years, I think it was a combination of, I'm only going to do what the doctor says, and I just haven't seen a doctor in 2 years. Wow. And that was new for me. Sometimes I'm used to people taking things into their own hands that's not warranted, and then this was the complete opposite. She was just like, my doctor told me to stay in the boot, and I'm staying in the boot. I'm not touching the boot.
Will not break orders. I mean,
right.
Good, but not good.
Yeah. Not the greatest though.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like for a couple of years now, foot fetishes have kind of like become a thing. Why do you think people are like into feet right now, selling feet pics on OnlyFans?
Listen,
like,
feet have been sexy since Boomerang made it sexy, that movie. But I mean, feet can be sexy, and I can see that people can have fetishes over like the nails, the nice pedicures. There's so many like foot rubs and scrubs that you can do for your feet. And also there's so many nerves in your feet that really can affect, how you feel and how you balance and, all of those kinds of things. So I mean, I don't personally have a foot fetish, but I can see how people can get there. Especially if you have it in your mindset that, something is either something you're going to obsess about, feet could be an easy one to do that for.
Yeah, and do you support a pedicure? I mean, because sometimes they'll like clean out the toenails and everything. Like, are you for a fan of pedicures and stuff like that?
I'm for pedicures in the sense that I like it when people are very meticulous in their maintenance of their feet. What I don't like about the pedicures is if someone has an ingrown and they go to the pedicurist to dig it out. I think that causes more of an issue. But yeah, I'm all for pedicures. I do pedicures myself. I'm just a little bit more particular maybe than your average person going to get a pedicure. But overall, I think it's a really good way to maintain your feet.
Okay, and last question. What do you hope viewers learn from watching this season?
Well, I hope viewers learn to come to see your podiatrist.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention, I think that you can really learn a little bit more of the science involved with feet issues. I mean, we are specialists of the foot and ankle, but we are doctors of the whole body. We definitely pay attention to everything, especially personally in your life and how we treat your specific issue.